and I'm calling this meeting to order. It's 6:01 here on July the 27th, 2026, and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and John's going to lead that. Here's your flag. Right behind you. Right behind you, you got one. All right, good evening. I will establish a quorum. We have eight directors here. Chris is not. Unfortunately, Chris is in a very cool place in Duluth and stuck in the airport for a couple of days. And I said, I feel really sorry for you. Um, so anyway, so we have a quorum and we'll establish that. We have several different comments for the record from the president here. One, I would like to say thank you to all of you that did come to one of our July 4th events. There's so many people that are in here that led them, that worked in them, that sweated in them. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate all you do for the community. And in all honesty, the feedback was very, very positive for almost everything that we did, and I appreciate that because there's no way between our volunteers and staff we would do what we did for over 2,000 or 3,000 people just that one weekend. And so it's amazing what you do in just a small group of people will do. So I appreciate you for doing that. Couple other comments. One is thank you very much, all of those that have had the opportunity to send us an email or give us a call or share what you were thinking. You know, we never know everything that the members are thinking, and so we appreciate you sending that. If you sent me an email, I think I said back, thank you very much for your passion and your concern for our community, and I still believe that today, even today. Let you know that our air condition is working, but the drain is not working as properly as we want. So that's why it's a little bit hot in here. And if you need to fan the person next to you, you can do that. I noticed Lisa over here doing that. So anyway, please feel free to do that. The other thing that we would like to do is, July 4th wouldn't happen again without, again, our staff and all that they do. And we'd like to recognize one of our staff members for service above and beyond. And some of you may have seen this. Melanie sent this out, but we had one of our officers, probably I would say, risk his life in saving another. And so when a child was knocked off because of a wake and was in the water, he went and saved them. Is that correct? Do I have the story correct? So Grayson? This is Grayson Robertson. A picture. Oh. You need to get it with all of these people here. Yeah. No? Okay, all right. We often forget the good things that people do. We also have another one for Jennifer Pope. She unfortunately could not be here tonight. And hers is for, again, going above and beyond the call of duty. If you came in on July 4th, I think she was up there 16 hours or so, 17 hours at the window, letting all of your guests and family members in. So thanks to her too. I'm sure I have more to say, but I'll leave that for later on, I guess. So right now it's comments from the members. If you have any comments, do we do a sign-in sheet? We didn't do a sign-in sheet. Okay. All right. If you do have comments for the members, you hold on one second. I see your hand. You can go first. Come up and there's a microphone here. You do have 2 minutes and we'll go from there. I thought that was you, Jim.
Thank you. Jim Hess, lot 1298. We have one lake, and the lake is not a renewable resource. We need to make decisions relative to the lake with both the immediate and long term in mind. Test. There we go.
There we go.
So Jim Hess, lot number 1298. We have one lake, and it's not a renewable resource. We have to make decisions with the immediate and long term in mind. And I'd ask you to carefully consider and implement reasonable parameters for the size and power of boats on our lake.
You're here. Yes, ma'am. Use the microphone right there.
My name is Janet Mitchell, and I'm lot 338. My husband Robert and I bought our home in Lake Kiowa in 2015, and we're full-time residents. Our daughter and her family also bought a home and moved here a little over 2 years ago. We're very involved in many activities, and we love Lake Kiowa. When Robert and I were looking for a home here, we were only interested in homes on the lake. It was Lake Kiowa that brought us here. Our home is in a cove, but we're on the lake often. For our family, it's just the right size, offering many opportunities. Our family is absolutely going to side with the residents that are against allowing wake surfing and large wave making ballast systems on the boats. Based on the information that I personally have read and videos that I've watched, it just doesn't make any sense to change the rules. Lake Kiowa is a small, mostly shallow lake and cannot provide enough deep wake and sufficient distance from shore for wake surf boats to operate without increasing erosion, sediment disturbance, and conflict with other lake users. So many terrible things could happen to our lake, and it would be disastrous for our community should that happen. It's not worth the risk for the few. There are many of our residents against a change in the rules, and for me and my family, it makes the most sense that we leave them alone. Hopefully, you will see it that way as well. To the board members, thank you for all the work that you do. We appreciate you very much.
Lori?
Hello, Lori Brindle, lot 1698. I have a little bit different concerns above the recreational and health of the lake. I was on the board, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, and we had a lot of things going on with the dam. So my biggest concern is about the dam with these boats. I did some research, and the ballast boats supposedly can do lots of damage to the dam, and I don't know how far out, if they get approved, that we're going to put buoys, but I hope it's way out, because what I've read, it can do damage to our dam, and that dam is what makes our lake. And when I was on the board at the time, we went from a significant risk to a high risk, and we were able to go to TCEQ and get it lowered by removing the campground and doing some minor changes. But I'm very concerned about our dam if these ballast boats are down there. I do have another concern, and it's in regards to monitoring and how we're going to, if it doesn't go through, how we're going to make sure that these people do stay off the lake and don't just pay the fines and things like that. And I know security cannot be out there all the time. Got it. I'm curious if we as members can take photos. If it doesn't pass, take photos, turn them in. And is there a way we can keep those boats from coming in if it doesn't pass? So it's more questions than answers, but thank you.
Thanks, Lori. You want to come up? Yep. Come on in.
Hello, Jim Orphis, Lot 177.
Jim, you want to address the chair?
I'm sorry, just
Thank you very
guys.
much.
I'll talk to you guys in a second. So Corky pointed out that this is the biggest group we've ever had since we voted for the pavilion, right? So that was something everybody was interested in. Thanks for reminding me, Corky. But we're all interested in this. So I was chairman of the Lake Management Committee. I'm still a member, and our charters take care of the lake. So once this passed, and for those of you that have the buttons, the reserve fund passed. Once that passed, we had money to save for dredging and other things to take care of the lake. Well, part of it, what we're doing now is putting up a riprap, putting up seawalls and stuff to protect the lake. So I know we can't cut down all the wave action, but the bigger the wave that knocks down our seawalls and tears up the lake. So what I'm against, we need to mitigate the wave action and protect our seawall, and all those are in the public areas, and we just have to take care of that. So I asked the board to think about what we want to do to protect the public areas of the lake along with the dam. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, sir. Those of you standing in the back, there are some chairs over here if you want to sit over here.
My name is Tommy Jackson. I live at lot 101 on Nowetta Place. I have been a property owner at Lake Kiowa and lived here since 2009 for 17 years. I've owned 2 different properties on the lake and loved both of them. Even though I'm off the lake now, I can still see the lake. And I too am adamantly opposed to any wake boats and any long boats and any fast boats that would be allowed on our lake. Quite honestly, I have a jet ski that is 255 horsepower, and since I live on the north end, I can be from the dam to the golf course island down here in 5 minutes. And that's when the water's smooth, that is. And we just don't need high-powered boats. We don't need deep water boats. We don't need wake boats. When I first originally bought my jet skis in 2009, when I moved in here, one of them was a wake jet ski. I didn't even know what that was. I came to the front gate and was stopped immediately by security at the front gate and not allowed to bring that jet ski in. And there was no amount of talking to the security was going to allow me to do it. And that was fine. I had to turn around, drive all the way back to Louisville where I bought it, trade it for a different jet ski, and then come home with it. So again, I've seen our lake, and this is not a comment against our security force. I'm very, very thankful for our security force. But any rules and any laws that are made are only as good as the police force that backs them up. And these folks cannot be everywhere 24 hours a day. My home is close enough to the boat ramp that is at the dam that I see people not adhering to the no wake zone every day when they unload their boats up there. And it's no fault of security, they just can't be there. So to think that we can make rules that will govern these wake boats and that security will be able to take care of that, I think is somewhat foolish. Again, just because they can't be everywhere at once. So I would highly, highly ask and beg the board of directors to reject any move to allow wake boats on Lake Kiowa.
My name is Jim Morgan. I live at
Jim, you want to hold it up?
It's on.
Hold it.
It's on. My name is Jim Morgan. I live at 122 Nowetta. Same as my neighbor there. And I have a new perspective after reading the paper from the University of Minnesota of what wake surfing boats do to the environment of the lake when the lake is less than 20 foot deep. And I have a depth finder on my boat, and there aren't really many places on this lake that are 20 foot deep. And when I go out, I check that out, and the lake is pretty high right now. What happens at the end of August? The future of this beautiful lake is in the hands of this board. And I appreciate all of you being on it, because I've been on a few boards, and the pay is overwhelming, I know. Please vote to eliminate these wake surfing boats from Lake Kiowa as part of the plan for environmental stewardship of all the properties in and around Lake Kiowa. Thank you so much.
Anyone else like to speak?
I'm Jeannie Smith, lot 1419, right across from the pavilion. So we have a good view of the lake. We love where we live. We get to see the families tubing and skiing and riding around the lake. We also get to see the boats not only using their boats to wake surf, but just to have fun riding around the lake with their ballast going. Recently saw that. We enjoy the peacefulness of the lake early in the morning, late in the evening. And sometimes I love that time when you get up in the morning and there's that one person out there skiing, taking advantage of that. That is a peaceful feeling. When I was a child, I learned to tube on an 18-wheeler inner tube behind my daddy's boat. I'm old, I know that. But today I have the joy of watching our grandchildren tube on the lake. And that is a simple experience, connects our generations, and it's exactly why this decision matters so much. The issue of ballast boats and wake surf boats have been discussed for a while now. I respectfully ask the board to work through it tonight. Settle on the wording you believe is the best, and as a board, take a vote on this subject. I wish there was a compromise. I love a compromise. And that would satisfy those who enjoy the wake surf boats and those who are concerned about protecting the lake. But the challenge is that if a ballast-equipped wake surf boats are damaging the lake bed and the shoreline, limiting their use won't help that. There will still be damage. As a board, and that's why this decision I know is difficult. As board members, and I lived with one I still live with him, but he was a board member before. We live together? Yeah, okay. As board members, you were elected to make thoughtful decisions, even though they are difficult. Tonight, I ask you to do that. Please bring this issue to the board. Please bring this to a board vote so our community can move forward with clarity and with long-term health of the Lake Kiowa as a priority. Thank you for your time.
Hey, those of you standing in the back, there are some seats up here if you want a seat.
Hello, I'm John Kalina, lot 417. I'm a past president of the Angler and Conservation Club. I am a member of the Lake Management Committee. I urge the board to limit the size of boats. I urge you to increase the no wake zones, move the buoys further into the lake, and to continue to deny approval of wake surfing. When our dam was built over 50 years ago, they had no idea the number and the size of boats that we have now in our tiny lake. The Coffer Dam is an area just in from the dam. It gets about 12 feet deep there, and it's an important benefit to our fishery. I've seen the map about where they want to do the wake surfing, and it goes right over the cofferdam. We need to keep our eye on what we want Lake Kiowa to be 50 years from now. And we need to keep the most conservative direction possible in order to ensure Kiowa will be a viable place for future generations.
Good evening. I'm Tricia Stirk, Lot 1617, and I am here to offer a differing opinion tonight. When I showed up, I was asked if I was pro-lake or pro-wakeboarding, and I'm pro both. I think that's possible. I also have read the studies that many of you have referenced tonight, but I've also read the other studies, as there are multiple, that suggest that this is not damaging to our lakes. Those studies in Minnesota were done on natural lakes with different bottoms and different shorelines. Lake Kiowa is a man-made lake with hardened shorelines, and these wake ballast boats are designed to dissipate the wakes at low speeds as they're operated for wake surfing. They will not do the damage that everyone is concerned about. Discriminating against a certain kind of boat and a certain kind of wave is splitting hairs when you're talking about the number of waves that this lake sees on the regular basis due to all the boats and the wake and the wind. And when you can learn how to control the wind, I applaud you. Also, I would like to say that I've been part of this community since 2003, and I know that we all care about the safety of our families and children. Wakeboarding and wake surfing are factually proven to be the safest water sport you can do. We are not slingshotting our children across the lake at 30 miles an hour. We are going at low speeds and in straight lines. And so for the safety of our children and the recreational fun of the future of this lake, I ask the board to respectfully hear the recommendations that came out of the ad hoc committee. It was a balanced committee discussed at length, and the recommendations are fair and compromised. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Tricia, Lot 340. My concern about the bigger waves that these wake boats create is for the safety of those people that are in the water. If you're in a kayak on a paddleboard, the big waves are very dangerous. The number of kids that swim or bob in the lake, I'm really worried about that too, because the waves are bigger. For our fishing boats that are lower in the ground, in the water, I'm worried about the turbulence that the bigger waves create that move the boats, wobble them side to side. I haven't really looked at the natural consequences, so I'm not going to speak to that, but I'm just looking at the safety of our small children and adults as well that are in the lake while these bigger waves are going on. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kim Deeks. I wasn't really going to speak tonight, but here I am. I'm in lot 1716, which is 148 Blackfoot Trail. I probably have either the largest or second largest shoreline of a lot out here. And we've been here about 6 years, and I am very much experiencing the devastation of wakes in general. We recently had to redo our seawall, and we redid half of it. And we had a 12 to 13 foot erosion. And now we are going to do the second half, and it's even more erosion than that. In a year's time, you can see where the rocks are and then the further setback. So the waves and the wakes are very damaging. And we feel, my husband and I, that the wake surfing is creating even more damage than maybe the jet skis or the bass boats or the general pontoon boats. And we are also floating off our dock and getting hit by those large wakes. I urge the board to also look at the bylaws that say it needs to be, in order for it to be a ski in, ski out cove, it needs to be 8 feet deep year round. Blackfoot Cove Lake, that portion of the cove is not a single day at 8 feet deep, more like maybe 5. And then when we hit the low points of the summer, 4. We can almost walk across that cove. And that's very, very damaging and to all those houses that are sitting on that cove. So we would urge the board to vote against wake surfing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dale Peterson. I've been here about a year and I love this community. I love the security and I've never seen a sense of fellowship like there is on Lake Kiowa. This is just awesome. I would like to encourage the board to limit wakeboard boats, wake boats, ballast boats, deep water boats. We live on the waterfront and our grandkids come to visit quite often. So not only would I like to see the wake boats limited, but I would also recommend to the board that we consider moving the distance out from a dock that boats can come. We have jet skis that come at a very high speed by our dock when the grandkids are out swimming. And 50 feet sounds like a lot of room. I think they crowd the 50 feet quite often. And I've pulled my kids out of the water, grandkids out of the water, because I fear for their safety. Because they come around the pylon and then zoom in, and I just fear for their safety. I would like the board to consider moving out a little bit more from the boat docks, the traffic of boats. I would also love to see something. When I took my boat to get it repaired, security put a tag on the boat, and I appreciate that. We want to protect our lake. I would love for the board to help educate security on the existing rules we have on wakeboard boats so that they can stop the boats from even coming into Lake Kiowa. It's very difficult to stop a boat once it's on the lake. Security can't be everywhere, but if you could help them identify the boats that shouldn't be allowed in and stop that at the lake. That rule was there when we moved here. So I expect the rules to be followed. I love the guidelines. There's clearly been a lot of thought and a lot of love put into how this lake is organized and how it's run. And I appreciate the job you guys do. But those are my recommendations. I'd like to add them to.
Yes. Ken Bonzo, lot 169. I wrote down my thoughts because I tend to ramble and lose my train of thought if I don't. My comments tonight are not directly about the current issue of the wake surf and ballast boats, although this issue is what is direct in my comments. But I will preface my comments with saying that I am against wake surf and ballast boats, but that is the extent of my comments on that. My comments on that are not more extensive because I don't know what exactly is being proposed. Unless a member was on the ad hoc boat committee or the rules committee, we do not know what is being proposed other than the comments that are out on Facebook. So it is not possible to make concise, educated comments on what is being proposed. I have run into this dilemma before on other items before the board, but this current issue has been the most frustrating for me, just maybe because I'm more engaged with it. I guess because I feel very strong on these lake boat issues. Now, I realize that if any rule changes are passed tonight, that they will then go out for comments to the community, and we will have ample opportunity to comment on them then. But I feel like there are times, not just this issue, but there are times that the board votes on things without the membership being able to make educated comments before voting. And so I don't understand why the materials that are provided to the board members prior to board meetings could not also be provided to the membership via a link prior to the meetings, and that is what I'm proposing. Of course, this was not including confidential stuff from the executive sessions or any other maybe confidential stuff, but just for the general meetings. To drive home my point, as if members had the energy and time available, we could attend all the subcommittee meetings and hear the discussions and what is being proposed and passed on to the board. So it's, to me, it's not like it's confidential. And so I just think that I just don't understand why they can't be shared ahead of time and just for more full transparency. And I think it just make all of us more educated and be able to make more concise, more educated comments before votes. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ken.
Two minutes. 2 minutes. All right. My name is Jeff Hecker, lot 1646. I want to talk to you a little bit about the biology of the lake. I know we've had a lot of comments about the impact of waves and everything, but the biology of the lake is incredibly important. I spent some time and I read through the Angler and Conservation Club's fish and water reports. And it has been noted that we do have blue-green algae in our lake. Now, for those of you that don't know, behind me and in front of me, blue-green algae is not an algae. It's actually a bacteria. It's called cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria will release toxins into your lake called cyanotoxins. Once they become prevalent in your lake, or if you get a bloom, that will create a health hazard within your lake, which means a health hazard to the extent to where you can't swim in it, you can't boat on it, pets can't go in it, and also you should not use it for irrigation, meaning we could not use it to irrigate our lake. That's right.
Golf course.
Right. So now what makes this bacteria spread? It loves sunlight. It loves warm water. I think we have ample of that, but it loves phosphorus and nitrogen. Now, everybody thinks that the lake bed is just a bunch of mud you walk around on, squishes between your toes, doesn't feel good, right? Well, actually, it's the foundation of your ecosystem of the lake. It naturally will release phosphorus and nitrogen up into the water depending upon the oxygen levels in the water, naturally. Now, let's insert and see what happens with the ballast boat, right? And wake surfing. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we've got proof from multiple studies that say that ballast boats absolutely produce a downward pressure wave up to 20 foot in depth or more. Okay, this is proven. You've got the videos, everybody has seen that. That downward pressure, as it tears up the lake, and it's proven, releases those nutrients into the water column at an unnatural rate. Okay. Once this happens, and why that happens is because as soon as that nutrients get into the water column, if it hits that cyanobacteria, you're going to get a bloom. And that's dangerous. Okay, so the biggest thing to do here is prevent risk, right? It's easier to prevent risk than try to restore a lake that has bacteria that's going to come back year after year. And it will come back year after year. Just look into some of the local lakes that we've got that have already hit that. They're all 1,000 acres or less and 20 feet in depth. That's exactly what we have. Any questions?
I will tell you that we're not going to debate any of that. But thank you very much. If you'd like to come up and speak to that, you certainly can. But we're not going to debate it. We do have some seats up here if you'd like to sit down. Those that are standing in the back.
I just want it to be fair and balanced that I do understand Dan Stirk, 1617. Blue-green algae, I do think that's a thing for lakes as they get warm. It's absolutely a thing. But I think fertilizer and fertilizer runoff is a significantly more important factor in terms of blue-green algae than pushing a wake towards the bottom. And I have to say, what I've been listening to tonight, everyone has been pushing, like the dam is at risk. There's many boats, too fast, too big of waves. I mean, you're really pushing for a no-wake lake is what I'm hearing tonight. I do think that's something you have to consider. Maybe there's just too many people and things are too tight and it needs to become a no-wake lake, because everything tonight has sounded like doom and gloom in terms of the opportunity here, especially everyone that wants to push in these buoys, talking about unintended consequences. We've already made the lake smaller and smaller and smaller and less room to boat. At some point, what's the point? Just turn it into a fishing pond, no wake, make it a swimming hole, and be done with it. That's going to be your option of where you're headed. You're going to have to balance it out.
Thank you. Sure, get up.
Good evening. Thank you all to the board. I've served on a few.
What's your name and lot number?
Apologize. Ed
Thank you.
Wethridge, lot 728. Thank you all for your service. Really appreciate it. Know it's tough what you're dealing with. Didn't really come prepared to speak. I'm relatively new. My wife and I moved in here about a year ago. But what I would say is what I've heard overwhelmingly from the audience is there's concern with the ballast boats. And my wife and I share the same concern. I know there are studies for them and there's studies against them. But the one thing that's clear and we can't debate is that they create they create powerful waves and a downward thrust. I guess it's three things. And they carry a ballast which can introduce invasive species. So there's just risk. So it's not a matter, in our opinion, I think for most people, of creating this into a no wake zone. Let people play, get on your skis, get on your tubes, your wakeboards, enjoy the lake. But the step level to go from a regular boat to a ballast boat is different. It creates greater waves, greater downthrust, greater risk to the ecology. And so for all those reasons, I think very simply, Lake Kiowa is just too small. There's places to try this out. This is not it. It's too small, too shallow. It's not worth the risk. That's our opinion. I hope you'll consider it. One thing that I would say, if you are considering this and you open the floodgate, please do so in a way that you can back it up. Because the thing I have heard for the year that we've been here is there's got this one boat out there. And people talk about, well, if one guy can do it, why can't we all? I understand, I wasn't here for that. We don't want to make that 12 or 20 boats, right? If we open up the floodgates by putting somebody out there, do it in a way that you can retract that and people are not guaranteed grandfathered. They don't have this legal right to say, I get to stay here because I was here for 6 months. Please consider that as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Anyone else? Another 2 minutes, right?
Gerald Smith, lot 1419. And I'll use my notes to try to stay on cue. All right. But Nancy, yes, I have another letter for each of the board members. We'll be giving it to you after my comments. It contains really three things: a request to prohibit wake surfing and large wave making ballast systems on the lake. There are several factual details as to why that is important. And also I have a listing of 313 Lake Kiowa property owners. That represents about 547 residents who are in support of our request. The recently approved vision statement of Lake Kiowa, that was an excellent effort for our community. And in that vision statement, emphasis was placed in the statement on protecting the lake. And we totally agree with that. We have the benefit of a recent best practice study in 2025. The study indicated that Lake Kiowa is aligned with most other private lakes with less than 1,000 acres. And this is what it says. Most Texas private lakes under 1,000 acres prohibit wake-enhancing holes and activities to prevent shoreline erosion and safety risk. Lake Kiowa has 563 acres of total water surface. The effective boating area is significantly smaller, somewhere in the 300 to 350 acre range due to no wake zones and shallow coves. In a POA survey that Rich conducted, put out in early 2025, one of the questions, 73% of respondents indicated they support limits to boats and activities. Best management practices, I'll be along, recommend best management practices: deep water, protection of the lake bed sediment stability, substantial distance from shore, and large open water areas for wake surfing. I believe we all here have a sincere desire to preserve the character, health, and safety of Lake Kiowa and protect it for future generations. So our request is really simple. When there is uncertainty, and we've heard it tonight, right? Let's choose the option to protect the lake rather than risk changing it in ways that cannot easily be reversed. Thank you. And we have the letters that we're going to pass out, and that's all.
Lisa? Jim?
Hi, Jim Adams, Lot 666. I support what Gerald's handing out to you, and I've signed on to that. But what I wanted to add is I've heard the thing about the lake testing, and then the argument I hear is it's a different lake. Well, every lake's different. The fact is, something that pushes down at 20 feet down is going to push on this lake too. So I know they all have different bottoms and that kind of thing, but it just stands the reason that it's going to affect the bottom of our lake. And then you can go to my boat dock today. I live just down the street here, and it's torn apart because it's rotted out, and it's just 10 years old. What they've put in there 10 years ago when I came in here, or I came in about 12 years and I fixed the deck 2 years later. It's rotted out, and it's because of wave action. Can I measure how much of that came from a wave runner or from a storm or from any kind of boat? No, it's hard for me to do that. But when I go on the lake, and I just went on the lake this last weekend on my wave runner, and there was a ballast boat out there, and it's just unenjoyable to be out there when a ballast boat's out there. It's not safe for a lot of things that are out there. And some people have said that. So if you're on a kayak or you're fishing, we've had board members dunked because of a boat that's operating wakes too big. And then we've had, and just things can happen out there to all the other activities. And it's just not fair to all the other people on the lake that are trying to enjoy it. So that was my main point. And I will also add that when this whole thing started a year ago, I started out on the other side of the topic because I didn't want boat rules. Generally, you guys know me, I was on the board. I just don't like POA rules. And so I try to limit them. I mean, I think they're good, but there's a right way to do them and all that kind of thing. But I tried to limit them. And when I heard about more rules, I just went, we don't need all that. And then the argument just switched, and it's all, oh, we're going to limit the boats. We're going to allow wakeboards. And oh no, I got to go back to the other side here. So wake boats are not safe for the majority of us, and I'm sure all these other things are true too. So thanks for supporting that.
Hi, I'm Lisa Bohannon, lot 1644. I share a cove, a spotted eagle cove with Blackfoot. My main concern with changing our rules or not exploring to have addition to the rules for non-ballasted boats is the safety. I invite anybody in here to come to my house and experience what I see when people are not following the rules or when people are using big wake boats that cause me to be thrown up against my seawall or thrown into my dock, and not to mention my grandchildren. That is a big deal for me. I would love for everyone to follow the rules. I'm a rule kind of girl, and I appreciate the rules that are set in place, and I urge you not to allow any more of the ballasted boats in here. My brother had a boat out here. He sold it to someone who now has that boat. It has the capability of having ballast in it, but my brother, as well as the person who bought the boat from him, has chosen to follow the rules and not put the water in the ballast. And I'm okay with that. That boat's okay as long as that person follows the rules. And the security can't be there everywhere, every time. I have turned people in. I was a snitch. Okay? Because they go up next to the buoys, right? With these huge waves because they are above the rules. How can we stop that? You can't. I speed 55 miles an hour. I'm going to go 8 miles over. Okay? So I get that, but I don't get putting the safety of our lake and the people on the lake at risk. So I urge you, well, first of all, I thank you. I appreciate what you do. That's 3 years of your life you're putting over here listening to everybody. So I thank you for what you do, and I urge you to think of our people on the lake as well as the properties at the lake.
Anyone else? No other comments from the members? All right. If you're still here after a while, we have another comments for the members at toward the end of our session. All right. So we're going to move on to our order of business. And so the next order of business is approving the minutes from June 26th, June 22nd, 2026. Do what? Approve. You move to approve. All right. All right, a second. So I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 22nd, 2026 by Rick, and then Dylan seconds. Is there any discussion? All right. All for the question, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand. No opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved 8-0. All right. Next order of business is our financial update. Treasurer Dan Bessie.
Dan Bessie, lot 1291. Oh, sorry. I guess I didn't have to do that. So thank you all for coming here to listen to the treasurer's report. I appreciate that. I think, Corky is right. This is the biggest crowd we had in a long time. So I'm assuming you all are interested in the financials today. This may be, all right. Oh, I'm slow. All right. So I'm just going to jump in. I know we have a lot of other things we want to talk about tonight. So just quickly at the top of the house, we had a little bit less revenue than we had budgeted. Some of that came, and we'll talk about in a second, but came from the lodge. This is, June numbers. So you think about the rain days we had in June. So we definitely, the rainy days, we have much less volume in the lodge. The expense side is dramatically off. And we'll talk more about that, but just high level. We sold a bunch of things last year. We made more income from our investments. So we had to pay approximately $50,000 for 2025 taxes above what we had budgeted. And then we had to true up our first 2 quarters estimated payments for taxes. So that approximates to about $71,000 of net expense for taxes that we did not budget for. So of that $100,000, $71,000 is from the federal taxes that we had to pay from income, capital gains on selling equipment, and a number of different sources. So at the bottom line, you can see that, our net income for the month was the negative 68,000, 115,000 net negative to the budget. And for the year, we're down 125,000. This thing never likes me. But Rich has it like, let's put some sort of spell on it or something. Maybe I just don't point it in the right place. But in any case, I told you. So from a revenue side, we're $15,000 lower, as we talked about. Building permits, are a little bit higher. One big ticket item there. We had a little bit more on July 4th ticket sales, pre-sales. in June. Obviously, the bulk of those ticket sales will show up in next month's. Resale certificates up a little bit, 12 resale certificates versus 9. Good news for the real estate agents in the room. And then really the rest is pretty minimal except for the lodge food and beverage. We definitely had $12,500 less revenue in the lodge, and a lot of that was due to some rainy days that we expected to have more people come in that we didn't. All right, on the expense side, we talked a little bit about it. So security was over a little bit on salary. Golf course was above on salary. And let me talk about that. Lodge was up on salary. So when we went into this budget cycle, we made some bets around where we could, how we could allocate some money. In years past, we always allocated 100% of salaries, assuming that every department, every job would be full 100% of the time. And that's just not realistic, right? We have turnover, we have people go out on unpaid leave. We have a lot of those things. So last year we put in a vacancy rate of 5% so that these jobs would be filled at 95%, and therefore we budgeted salaries at 95%. And then this year I made the proposal to move that from 95 to 93, since we averaged around 90% in the past. And this year, we've actually had very little vacancy. So when you see the salaries, you see a lot of that is we budgeted at 93%, and we're coming in at a higher rate of people actually in jobs than that. And that hurts us on the salary front from a budgeting perspective, but also hurts on the benefit front, right? So we have that challenge. We have, in Jeremy's world, in the lodge, we have more people taking advantage of healthcare, which is tremendous. To me, that's one of the best benefits to keep the good people with us, is if they're taking advantage of getting their health insurance through us. But again, that was higher than we thought and budgeted. So we got a lot of things that are coming together and putting us in a tough spot. And then you see the big number in administration, that's really $71,000 that federal taxes. So without that, administration would have been, good to about $5,000. So we'll talk a little bit more about the reserve fund balances, so you can see kind of where we are on that. All the way at the bottom, you can't really see it probably, is the road reserve fund. We've now been collecting that since April 1st. We have about $90,000 in that fund. We're not spending any money this year from that road reserve fund. We have money coming at ARF and from the O&M to pay for the roads this year, and most of that money's already been spent. So, but otherwise, there's not a lot of action within the reserves today. Delinquent accounts are still in pretty good shape. We have 9 members that are more than 90 days behind on their fees and dues, but overall we tend to be pretty good. Interest income on our investments, both from O&M but mostly from the reserve funds, is about $100,000, and we got another $100,000 from initiation fees. So the more new members that move to Kiowa, the more money we get for the initiation fee. Checking account balance, moderate. We have about $5.5 million in all the reserve funds. Again, since there's probably a couple new people here, people say, "Oh, we have all this money in reserve funds. We have the POA has tons of money." Well, we have $170,000 in cash that we can spend. All the rest are in reserve funds for a dedicated reason. So if it's ARF, it's to replace assets that we bought. So we bought a tractor or a mower for the golf course. That's there to replace the tractor or the mower. Security deposits from people that are renting, about $500,000, maybe even $600,000 of it is the Part 3 maintenance. So that's money that is donated to the POA, but it's only could be spent on the Part 3. So that money is 100% earmarked towards a specific cause that only can be spent on that specific cause, if that makes sense. So I won't go through this. This is the ledger kind of line items on the different balances, so you can see specifically how much money we have in the different checking accounts, how much money we have in the reserve funds and security deposits, initiation fee, et cetera, et cetera. Then this is how we've invested it. So we continue to try to maintain safety first, and in this kind of market condition, that's a good thing. So it's really all invested in CDs or U.S. Treasuries. Almost all of that's in less than a 1-year duration. So, from that safety security perspective, but we also try to maximize as much income we can underneath that safety liquidity parameters. So you can see Crystal, who manages this for us, Crystal Alton, our controller, was always looking for opportunities to balance liquidity. So if we need to pay for something, we need to have the money to do it, but then also think about where can we get the most income as part of that. So 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, we opened a second account at Fidelity so we could buy treasuries, because at the time and still to today, we can get more income with much less risk than you can in some other opportunities. All right, it's not me. It's not me. All right. So that's financials. I said I would talk a little bit more about the reserve funds, and this is just quick. A couple of slides are on this. So, every year or so, or maybe more often, we come to someone comes to the board. I mean, I first did it when I was the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and said, "Hey, the reserve funds are in a tough place." And now we have the reserve funds that are in a tough place, but we also have a challenge within the operations budget, in that we get lots of costs that go up and go up a lot more than the 5% cap. So I highlighted this one, our insurance, and this isn't health insurance. This is really property insurance that we're going to, every year, that's been going up. Rich, Crystal, the rest are really work hard to make sure that we have the right coverage, but also the most cost efficient coverage. So we need to think through that as we start the budget cycle in a few months, that we're going to be pushed on trying to find money for salaries and all these other things that we really can't control, because we can't really say we don't want to have property insurance. We need to figure out a way to get that done. So on the next slide, it talks more directly about the reserve funds. So ARF, again, is the Asset Replacement Fund. What we kind of do a funding percentage to look at how much money is in the fund and how much do we estimate that we need to spend over the next 10 years. And we use that as a funded rate. That's on the KPIs that Rich will talk about later today. So if you look at the ARF, we have $1.4 million in that fund as of 6/30. And that's about 28% of what we think we need to spend over the next 10 years. So that's not great. The best practice is to have 70+% funding rates for over the next 10 years, so you can add money over time to get to where you need. The golf course reserve fund, 10%, and that's really a couple of big ticket items that are in there. Greens replacement, depending on different estimates, is somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million in today's dollars. We have $700,000 total in the fund right now. We just thought through what we're going to need to spend on irrigation over the next few years, and that's been added into this fund from a cost perspective. So that's a little struggle. And for people that aren't familiar, the ARF and the Golf Course Reserve Fund increases are capped at 3%. So we've not been really below 3% from an inflation perspective much over the last 5 years. So costs are going up faster than we can increase the caps on those funds. So there's not an ability to catch up directly. And Lake Management Fund is a little bit different, because the people that run the lake pay to the budget. They don't necessarily look at, I want to spend $15 million to dredge the lake, which sounds like a made up number, but that's probably pretty close to what it would cost to dredge the lake. So we've operated more on how much money do we have and how much can we spend, and not looked at, the big ticket of, hey, how do we do $15 million? So if you looked at, we have $1 million today. If you need to spend $15 million to dredge a lake, and nothing else, I mean, that 32% number would get much smaller. So I'm going to stop on the bad news and keep moving forward. CARF, we have $1 million, which is a pretty high level of funding. A lot of that was due to that we've have 400 and something $1,000 in there earmarked for the front gate. We have $140-ish thousand in there earmarked for pickleball that may be under CDRF. So, those funds are a little bit bigger, but again, we take 140 or whatever we owe to the pickleball project, that all of a sudden gets down to about $120,000. So, I bring these things up again as we start thinking about budgets and what's our future from a financial point of view. We really need to be very cognizant around, these decisions because, we've been talking about these things a long time. We've tried to take action on things like the ARF, where we tried to increase the cap to 5%. The members voted it down. We tried to change the cap to cost, the inflation rate or 5%. That got shot down. So what's going to happen at some point is we either make a decision not to replace greens or not to do certain things or do an assessment. And that's a reality that we have to figure out. So if we don't figure out how to add more money to these funds, there will be significant assessments to do certain projects. All right. I guess I was going to keep it on a more positive end, but I didn't. So Rich's clock wasn't going. And so I mean, these are things that, we have a lot of things in front of the board, but these are things that we need to think about, not for today, not just for today, but over the next 5, 10, 20 years, that if we don't start doing something now, we'll be in real trouble in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Your next item of business on the agenda is to consider possible additions and to the committee structures that we have. And so you have removing one member from lake management, you have adding a member to the long range planning committee, and you have adding 3 members to the nominating committee. Are there any other members or people? Yes, sir.
Yvonne Collier messaged me after the agenda was out. She needs to be removed from the nominating committee. So if you'll add that, Rich.
All right. Then we will remove Yvonne from the nominating committee. All right. Any other changes you know of? Additions? Is there a motion to approve these? Dylan and then Cecil. All right. Seconds it. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of making these committee changes, raise your hand. All right. All those opposed, there are none. And so it's 8-0. Thanks, Kendall. All right. Your next item on here is we've been trying to do annual updates, if you will, of committees. And so I think.
Nancy, sorry. I apologize. I forgot something. Can I just have less than 15 seconds?
Less than 15 seconds. Really?
Okay. In the board package, there's a set of do you knows that are tended to keep helping with the member financial education. So it's designed to be really short, quick hitters to be in the communique. So if you, at your leisure, could you take a look at the concept and let me know what you think?
Okay. Thanks, Dan. You did good. You did good. We've been trying to go through and give a committee update at every meeting. And so this time, because of all the stuff going on, I knew I could be fairly quick for you. We're going to do celebration committee. Does anybody know what the celebration committee does? Scott, you do the next one. It does. It does. It's responsible for planning and organizing and implementing all of your POA activities that are out here that really revolve around families in one way or another. And so you may or may not know that there is a budget for that committee. We put it together every year. It's around $40,000. Do you know what the bulk of that budget is? 4th of July fireworks. That's correct. About $1,000 a minute is what it costs for those to go up. And anticipate that it will go up this next year, 25 to 30% is what we think at this point in time. And so in your big budget items, obviously we buy the eggs and candy for about 6,000 eggs that we distribute. And then if you've ever been there for Easter or July 4th, we have face painters and balloon twisters. If you are a face painter, you need to come see me. Or if you're looking for a part-time job, come see me because they make a killing on what they do. And so, especially if you do balloon twistings. But that's the scope. And so go to the next one, Scott. So, you know, we tried to go through and align it with what our mission and vision are. I mean, we have a big committee, and it's really made up of you that are in representing us in organizations or our staff and how we organize the different committees. You know, we support, the biggest thing we do is we promote the traditions that bring people here. How many of you had somebody here for July 4th weekend? I was going to say almost everybody should stretch right now, right? I mean, as many people as we have coming in and all the different things that we do. And we make it happen through staff members and volunteers who are exceptional. Scott, you want to go to the next one for me? Yep. Okay. And so obviously when we look at different things, we have all of those different events that we do. And so like right now we're planning the fall for the POA. So we have to go through and decide how are we going to do trunk or treat? How are we going to do breakfast with Santa? Who's going to organize those things? What are we going to buy? What do we need? And so all of those things happen. The biggest thing is we're planning by January, we're planning July 4th. And so we start 6 months or more out. Like we've already contracted people for next year just because it takes that to do that. And Scott, you want to go to the next one for me? So come back one. So there's two things to a celebration committee. Key achievements. I mean, obviously the things that we do, we get great feedback from you. Your kids like it. Your grandkids like it. We always say that we plan 5 adults, 1 child, because it's usually grandparents that are there, parents that are there, and then 1 child, sometimes 2. But that's sort of how we plan what we're going to do. And I mean, just the willingness of people to volunteer and do things is just incredible of the spirit. I think somebody spoke to that about the committees. I mean, excuse me, the community as a whole. But I will say we have a bunch of risks and challenges, and people don't think about this. But a lot of our volunteers are aging. I say that because I am, but I say that because volunteers are aging. And so we need to find more people to do some of these things, more people to teach how to do some of these things, transfer that information that we have. But volunteers don't want to be outside in the heat a long time. They don't. I'm telling you, they don't want to organize or manage the activities. And one of the reasons they don't want to have to tell their friends what to do. And so they don't want to lead them, but they'll do it for a while. And so that's a challenge for us whenever we put on POA events, is finding the leadership to get out there and do some of those things. And so those are risks and challenges that we have. And so I encourage you to think about how you can volunteer or how you can get your kids or your grandkids to volunteer on those weekends and those activities that they're here, because that will make a huge difference in what we do. And the last one, Scott, that's there, is that our current budget's $40,000. And that's the question to the board. What can the board do? And so are we willing to spend 25 to 30% more in our budget for POA activities as we budget for 2027? And then the other is next year, July 4th is on a Sunday. The parade and all the activities are on July 3rd. So does that meet with everyone's approval in this room? Okay, good deal, because it's already been decided. So just letting you know. Anyway, that's what we do with the celebration committee. And so I highly encourage you, all the different people that make it happen. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, but from the bottom of everybody else's heart. Dina, And Melanie? Actually, I don't remember her name. Yes, that'd be correct. That'd be correct. 5. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is a privilege to serve, is what I tell myself when I'm out there at 100 degrees and July 4th ticket booth. Yep. No. Thank y'all very much. It is a privilege to serve, and it's cool to see everybody having a great time. And so I just hope that we as an organization, as a community, continue to do that for our community, because it's awesome as to what we do. All right, moving on. Oh, and by the way, we did have a July 4th parade, but guess what? We have a Christmas parade also the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And so last year we increased our golf carts by what, 20%? We doubled it. And so we went from 3 to 6. And so my challenge to you is to go to 12, right? And we already know Santa is lined up. We already know the elves are lined up. We already know the sleigh is being worked on, and so those things will happen. But you know, it's really cool to see the golf carts with all the lights on them and stuff like that. And it's not late. And we're going to have that event here inside the lodge, because you seem to like it, because we had a bar, and so we'll do that again. Santa's elves at least enjoyed that. So. Okay, next item of business is architectural control. We want to constitute some lots, Rich.
Actually, we're going to deconstitute some lots.
Deconstitute, excuse me.
Well, we have, and I'm filling for Pete Mason, chair of the ACC. He's actually in Colorado, where it's cooler right now, too. So we're going to deconstitute 2 lots, 329 Comanche, lots 1158 and 59. So that's on towards the northern end of the east side. The lot is on 1158. 1159 will be the vacant lot. Septic was on there. It's already been relocated and moved. And there was a small detached building that was there that has already been removed. Fences on the property line, and a septic letter is provided for you. As you can see on the map, just 1158, 59, house is on the right. There's the little circle where the detached building is. That's been removed. And then we got a septic letter. Everything's been completed. The ACC reviewed this and recommends it to the board for approval. And everything's actually already squared away at the county as well. So this is administrative change for the POA to make sure we get to-dos going forward to increase the income for Dan.
All right, is there a motion to approve deconstituting lots 1158 and 1159? Cecil, is there a second? Rick seconds it. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of deconstituting those 2 lots, raise your hand. All right. No opposed. It is 8-0. Thanks, Kendall. All right. Lodge and Tavern Committee. I think that's Jeremy and Ronnie.
It is, and I'll start. The consideration we have today is we've been bouncing around with the board for some time, the decision as to whether or not we're going to expand the bar area. And the general idea is to make it into more of a horseshoe shape, to open it up, to triple the number of seats there, to change around the seating. And there's a concept design. We'll get more of that in a minute. What we have before us today, we first came to the board with this idea just to see if there was some interest in it. And the board indicated there was an interest. So we started working on proposals, drawings, ideas, running them through the Lodge and Tavern Committee. And we've come up with a lot of different looks. And this is generally what we think would enhance the look of our dining area. The determination for tonight is whether or not the board wishes to take one more step forward and to obtain RFPs, which are essentially people who are willing to talk to us about what they're going to do as the contractor, how they're going to approach it, how long it's going to take, what impact it's going to have on the lodge and the income in the lodge. We need to know what those factors are so we can start studying what the alternatives are. Where are the people going to eat? Where are the people going to drink? What services are we going to provide that in other areas in the lodge building that will cover those issues? So that's the thing before the board today. Are we going to take one more step and get the information to move forward with this project? And now Jeremy will tell you a little more about what we're so excited about.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Everyone that just comes out to the lodge and supports us, we have grown the percentage by 110% over the past 3 years. We're just excited, but with that comes growing pains. Okay. So with that comes growing pains. We have actually grown the percentage by 110%. So we've over doubled in the past 3 years that we've kind of taken over and really tried to change the lodge. So with the growing pains, we just don't have the room for some of our food and beverage items. Just the stagnant bar. If you're ever there on a Friday night and you see all the servers going in there and trying to pour drinks and run around, this will just open it up and give it a little bit better flow. Being able to do a brand new draft system will be very nice for the safety of things. Being able to, we would like to build an actual refrigeration unit outside, have the keg box and everything. So all you have to do is change right there without having to bring a keg all the way up, which is a safety issue for our employees. We just like to see this move forward. Okay. We want to keep on serving y'all at our best capability. And I think doing something like this will help.
So Ronnie, are you asking for approval to move forward with the RFP since we don't have any numbers or anything? Do we know what else we're looking for in design or anything?
We need to know all of the elements that we just discussed, and we need the RFP to get a decision on from the builders, what they will do, how they will do it, what their time frame is, what the cost is going to be, what the alternatives are among the various suggestions. So that's all we're asking tonight. Do we move forward? Rich has already talked to some people and is ready to go.
Is there a motion for that? Okay. Ronnie moves. Is there a second? Dylan? All right. You have a motion on the floor and a second from Dylan to investigate with an RFP what the cost will be, time frame, those pieces. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Dan?
Overall, I'm highly in support of this project. I think we can continue to provide better service, have better amenities, and raise revenue for the lodge and therefore the community. My concern is going to RFP at this phase without even knowing any of the numbers is problematic in my mind. I think we should do at least some estimates around what could this be. I've seen numbers from $125,000 spent to $350,000 spent. And I have no idea if this is really going to raise revenue. I think it will, but will it break even over a period of time? Will there be any positive ROI on this? What's the transition plan? As Ronnie said, I think we need to think through some of that before we go out to RFP, because I don't think a contractor will help us understand, some of these items around the hundreds of meetings as scheduled in this room. If we try to serve in this room while those meetings are going on, or if we cancel those other sessions, what's that mean? So I'd love this idea. I just think it's too early, that we need to do some math before we decide to go to RFP, because to me, it may not be worth it if the math just comes out and says we can't justify $350,000 in spend or $100,000 in spend, given this all going on. I think we can, but I'd much rather know that before we step forward versus after.
So are we really asking for not so much an RFP, but an RFI? So we're actually request for information. So we're looking for information from those contractors. We're looking for information on timelines and things like that. Is that a little bit more about what we're asking? And then you're also asking for, I know there's a term for it at this moment. It has left my mind for it.
Yeah, just a cost benefit analysis and kind of look at that.
Sounds good.
That's what I was going to say. All projects of significance have what's called a payback period. And, some you don't get much of a payback period on. It's just a cost of doing business. There are others that you're looking for some sort of payback. Is it going to increase revenue? Does it defer the cost of the project? How much? We need to know and understand if there is any of that.
And I'm fine with no positive ROI from a financial point of view if we all believe that it's dramatically better experience for the members. We just need to go in and understand, all right, we supplement the lodge now roughly $100,000 a year. It's Jeremy's leadership has been tremendous. The percent that we supplement the lodge is dramatically different than it was in the past due to his work of the Ronnie and the lodge committee. So that's great. So to me, I just think we just need to think about this a little bit more, spend a little time in Excel and come up with some better answers.
Sounds like Dan wants to do that piece of it for you. I'm just guessing.
I volunteered, no doubt.
And so would we be saying that we're really looking for an RFI to gain more information as well as the cost benefit analysis to go with that? Is that what you're asking for?
No, but I'm willing to accept that.
Okay. How about you? You second the motion?
Under the impression we're allowing Ronnie to go ahead and spend $1,200 to get what I would call design, so you could actually put it out.
Is that what it is? Is that what we're asking for?
That's how I read this.
Okay. So that's really your motion.
Yes.
How much is it? 1,200?
I will amend my motion to grant us the $1,200 to spend to get the additional information from the contractors in relation to what the bid will be and the ideas that are available to have the contingency plans for what we do and how we do it.
I still second it.
Great.
Thank you.
So Ronnie, so the $1,200 is going to multiple designers, builders, whoever, and getting their thoughts, or is it going?
Yeah. And then with that design, they can send down.
So, all right.
So what they said was that it would be $1,200 to one designer so that they would have the information so that they could go out and get an RFP once they had an idea of what it would look like and what the engineering would be. Would that be correct? The construction design?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the table right now is that we would spend an amount not to exceed $1,200. Would that be correct?
And then in the meantime, Dan does math. Okay.
I think that's what I heard. Yes. Uh-huh. Does that work for you?
It does.
Okay. All right. Making sure he was the maker of the motion. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right. The motion in front of you is to spend an amount not to exceed $1,200 for the design information to be able to prepare an RFP and then also work on the cost benefit analysis at the same time. Does that be correct? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? All right. The ayes have it, and it's 7-1, Kendall. All right. Next item on the agenda is golf committee information on the par 3.
We have been looking at the usage of the par 3. It's been improving steadily. There are more and more people using it. There are a lot of different ideas about how they would like to use it. And one of the things that has come forward, currently the par 3 is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. A lot of that so that there's plenty of time to take care of the big course and the par three course. So in the golf committee, we have met with our superintendent, who agrees that it'd be okay to be open on Monday. Our golf professional also agrees that it would be okay to be open on Monday. The golf committee has embraced that, and the manner in which we would proceed is that it would be open for everyone all day long. You don't have to make a tee time. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to call and tell them you're coming out. You go to the par three. If there's nobody on number one, you tee off. And so that's our plan. We want to encourage people to use it. We want to make it more available, and then look at what the future of the par three is going to be. Lauren has been gracious, because that's some of the funds that would otherwise go to her for guest charges, and we're not going to charge guests. If someone is here as a guest, they can go with their member and play with very little difficulty.
So is that when are they going to do maintenance on it?
They'll be closed on Tuesday.
We'll be closed on Tuesday. Okay. All right. Making sure.
And so move.
All right. And so we have a motion to approve the par three being open for open play all day on Mondays. Kendall, Ronnie made the motion and Dan second. All right. Any other discussion? All right. You're ready for the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. Those opposed? And there are none. So 8-0. The chair sees people melting at this point in time. And so if you would be okay, she would like to have a 10-minute break for everyone. And we'll resume right at the next is the golf committee deliberating on proposed golf revisions. And so if you come back at 7:40, we will start again. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. Item of business. We're resuming here at 7:40 is, again, golf committee, and deliberate on the rules that were out for member comment. So Ronnie, I'll turn that to you.
Thank you, Nancy. The Rules Committee has approved the proposed changes in red. They've been through the golf committee. We've discussed them at length. There are 3 things that have come up during the member comments that are pretty pervasive. A lot of people don't want to do away with the age limit for the youngest age that you can be on the golf course unaccompanied.
So Ronnie, which one is that? Is that category 9? That's 3.3.9.7, age of playing. So the comments based on in your amendment to that is that we keep that rule. All right. So I would say we take these one at a time since they've been out for member comment. And so 3.3.9.7 is age of playing. And so rather than deleting it, we would keep that rule in place. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And Ronnie's the maker of that motion. Is there a second to that? So a bunch of hands go up all of a sudden. I got Lisa's, I think, first. All right. Okay. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor of keeping that age 3.3.9.7 age of playing in place, raise your hand. All right. Any no's to that? Okay. 8-0, Kendall. You abstained. Okay. All right. I didn't see your hand go up, but I thought maybe I missed it. Okay. All right. So it's 7-0 with 1 abstention. All right. Ronnie, what's next?
The second thing is on Section 1.7 golf facilities. We thought it was not correct grammatically or otherwise to have the PGA golf professional listed as a facility, but it was not intended to, although she does facilitate a lot of things, that we do want to keep the requirement that Lake Kiowa will always have a PGA golf professional, and that just needs to be dropped down into another paragraph below 1.7 golf course, right where it says that we also have a green superintendent. We could work that into one paragraph.
So if you made the addition, courses are equipped with USGA regulation greens and an automatic irrigation system, period. And then it goes a full-time green superintendent, groundskeeping crew, and a resident PGA golf professional. Would that work?
That's correct.
Are, right? All right. I heard that motion from Ronnie. Who seconds it? Anybody second it? John? All right. Is there any discussion on that? None? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. 8-0, Kendall. And you have approved that you would add back in resident PGA golf professional. All right, Ronnie?
The third item that we have is the manner in which we enter the golf course. The intent of our green superintendent, when we say that we use the 90-degree rule, has always been that you hit your tee shot, you proceed down the cart until you're parallel with your tee shot. You do a 90-degree turn to your ball, and then you stay in the fairway until you approach the appropriate distance from the green that you shouldn't go any farther. I believe that's 50 feet. And then you do another 90-degree turn back to the cart path, and you endeavor at all times to stay out of the rough because it gets less water and is more susceptible to the traffic. And that's what our golf course superintendent has requested. And I make a motion that we adopt that definition of the 90-degree rule.
So we're going to keep the 90-degree rule, but we're going to define what it looks like in practice. Correct. All right.
I know. I always thought you'd go hit your ball, you'd do 90 degrees back to the cart path, go up parallel with it again, and then go back out, hit your ball again, and that increases the traffic, and that's not what he wants. And I think he's right.
So I'm going to go out to my ball. Of course, as many times as I hit it, that will be a lot of times if I were to do that back and forth. So, because I'm not like many of you out there that are the pros. And so I hit it and then I stay there and I keep going to wherever it is, as long as I don't get in the rough. Is that correct?
Correct.
Up to within 50 foot of the green. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see my 100-foot putt. Uh-huh. Yeah. You're funny today. Yes, sir. You had a question?
That mean we force staying out of the rough, or because they should always say for middle, but they're driving out.
There has not been a recommendation that we adopt a rule that you cannot go into the rough, but he has requested that we avoid it as much as we can as good golfers and friends of the course. And yes.
I think you watch them the next 3 holes and then see what they do. So, well, okay.
Garland will run out of beer by then.
Okay. So The motion I have from Ronnie is that we would change that definition to match what our golf superintendent has given us about the 90-degree rule. Is there a second?
Second.
Dylan seconds it. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. And it's approved 8-0. Those are your amendments. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. And the remaining rules that were out had no other comments for changes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And are we going to adopt the rest of those revisions as they were presented to our members?
I so move.
All right. Rick seconds Ronnie's motion. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Adopting those rules. All right. And you can. I think, Ken, what we said is that you would drive parallel down the fairway. That's correct, but that we just changed it.
Change that.
So we just changed the definition. Yes, sir. Yes, we'll reword that and make sure it states that. All right. Any other discussion on the golf rules that were out there? All right. Yes, sir.
So we're moving forward with the ones that weren't amended. What do we do with the ones that were amended? Does it have to go back out, or can we just move forward?
I think we just adopted them, and I think they move forward.
Okay.
We move forward because we sent them out. Members gave us comment. We made the revisions, and then we voted on them.
Perfect.
And they don't have to go back out.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Rules Committee. I think Dan and George had that in regard to adding a new rule 3.3.1.13A on sexual harassment.
Yeah, I think we could cut this one short. So since the vast majority of the board decided that Kiowa would be better off not having a rule protecting guests, members, and staff from sexual harassment, I move to table this item indefinitely.
All right. Is there a second? And Ronnie, all right. Dan moves to table indefinitely the 3.3.1.13A on prohibition of sexual harassment. Ronnie seconds it. Is there any discussion? I would say, and based on the member comments, it's not just the board, but also member comments providing information too. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Neither. Abstain? All right. And so we have 7-0 and 1 abstention. All right. The next item of business is the Rules Procedures Committee. And George, in regard to our rules in regard to the watercraft. And so can I say something first? Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, I forget that some days, right? So I have a question for the board and the Rules Committee. So these rules are really based on, if you look at them, they're based on lots of member comment. There's lots of member energy that's gone into these rules. I mean, certainly the comments tonight that you gave us, that's only about maybe a third or a quarter of what we've received in regard to these particular rules in watercraft. And because of the impact to our community that these rules would have, And it's not only in just the condition of a seawall, it's not only in the condition of how the lake may be for the future, but it's also in the financial impact that these rules would have to this community. And I say that in several reasons. One reason is because as we saw tonight, there are two sides of an issue, and it doesn't matter which side of the issue, the information that has come to me, there could be suits involved in that. And so that's a financial concern for you because you are a member here in this community. And so if there is a suit that comes before us, guess who gets to pay for it? Our members do. And if that comes up and we have to do that, then that also impacts you from an amenity perspective. And so that could be that we wouldn't be able to pay for certain amenities or be able to provide the upkeep that's there. And so there's a future cost to maintain whether we go forward on either side of the issue. There is a cost to the membership and to the community. And so therefore, I'm going to ask the board, and I will also say it's not just what would happen in just the next, I don't know, year or so, but it's also the future to our property values and what happens here. Again, doesn't matter which side of the issue you're on, it does have an impact. And so I would ask the board to consider that these particular rules be put in a ballot be created that our members are allowed to vote on them. And the reason I say that again is because you as a member are impacted by whatever decision is made. And now the board can totally decide not to go with me on that, and that's fine. But I would ask you to consider that because it is the membership that's impacted here, not just the actually 8 people here tonight that are making that decision. And so anyway, I would ask the board to consider that.
Nancy, a couple questions. So would this be like a referendum? Would this be a binding referendum? How would it actually work from your perspective?
Laws allow the board, when necessary, to make a special election on whatever matters that need to come before the board. And so sometimes it's a bylaws change, sometimes it's an assessment if we have an immediate assessment or something. But we can have a special election for that. We don't have to wait until February for that. And so a ballot can be created. It takes us 2 to 3 weeks for us to get all the member information input into our system, and we would have an election, and you would have a ballot, not election, but you would have a vote on the ballot for each of the rules that we put on there. And so the ballot would be created by board members because the board's going to have to approve any ballot that goes out. You'd have to have some input, I think, from the Rules Committee. This is just Nancy talking right now. And so I think that's sort of how it would go. But you could make that happen in August. You could probably the middle or the end of August, or you could make it happen 1st of September.
That sounds interesting to me. The question is do we think it would be a binding, like, I can't imagine it became 60-40 one way that the board would go against it, but like most things at Kiowa, it's 50-50 or 1/3 yes, 1/3 doesn't vote, 1/3 no. So
you would have to meet the same standard of a majority, which would be you'd have to have at least 20% of our members voting in order for it to be a binding vote. And then as a board, I mean, when the elections happen for our board members, our members are choosing them. When we voted on the par 3, that was a binding vote on the board. And so.
Could we just do a real quick show of hands because it affects them. as well as us. I mean, how many people think that's the fairest way to go about it?
I think it's actually a board decision at this point in time.
So
you have the opportunity to do that.
So my questions are, it is legal for us from a legality standpoint.
It's in our bylaws.
All right, that's.
And in our bylaws, it
Okay,
does say
that's
that
fine.
the board can, whenever they choose to, have a special election. And you can choose whatever the issue may be.
And each and every rule stands on its own, voted by the
Whatever's
membership.
Whatever is on that ballot. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nancy,
Yes, sir.
I would assume that the prohibition in the rules now would continue until after we move forward in another direction.
That would be correct. That'd be correct. And so I wouldn't, go ahead.
So is the board getting a recommendation from the entire community via vote and then the 9 of us vote on it? Or if it's 51%, I think that's what you're trying to ask, and I don't think I'm clear yet.
So your ballot that the board would make and approve would go out to the membership. And then if it's a majority of vote, would determine what those rules are to go in there.
So we would not approve after the fact. It's 51%. It's approved.
I think we would maybe approve after the fact, but we're going to go. All right. I hate this thing.
Please, if you hold on a second, I know who you are. So hold on a second.
But if we approve like after the fact, like we did for the par 3, then I mean, we're not going to go against what our community wants. I don't want to be booted out in the middle of the lake. Melanie will come get me, but
I think if you do a ballot, Dylan, then I think you have to be honest and serve what the members have gone by. And so if you choose to have a ballot, I think you do that. I don't think you go back and you change what the members have chosen to do.
I was asking process.
Yes.
Come back to us for a vote of 9.
That's
it goes
correct.
straight to
That's correct. Rick, you had a question?
Yes, I think if we do that, I really kind of like the idea of doing this, but I also feel like the Rules Committee did the board members an injustice by not giving us exactly what the ad hoc committee proposed. And so sitting here today, I couldn't tell you if I'm for it or against it because I really don't know what the ad hoc committee wanted to do. So it's really hard to do.
So
the ad hoc
that would be a
So
synopsis of what
Right.
the ad hoc committee
Oh,
actually
yeah.
recommended. So
Yeah. So I don't need anybody else to respond. Okay. So
I just think we need to have the full recommendations that they put out there presented to the community and not a synopsis of what the rules committee thinks the ad hoc committee wanted.
It was in your packet.
And so what I
I
would say.
read it in my packet and a lot of stuff was left out.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to debate that, and I'm not going to allow you to debate that. Okay. So what I am going to say is that if you do put a ballot out to the membership, it's very clear what the rule would be. And it's very clear as to whether they want that rule or don't want that rule. And then in the rationale, you can provide this additional information that's there. That's how we've done ballots before.
I agree. I think it has to be very clear as to what the rule would be, very specific, not this is where you're interpreting it. So we don't agree with it this way. It needs to be very specific. It needs to be very clear as to this is the rule today. This is what the rule would be if we voted to approve the rule. So everybody knows.
That's correct. And I think it's important to say a yes vote means this would happen. And that's what sometimes we fail to miss or we miss or whatever. We failed to do, I think is it. So the ballot would be approved by the board. And so, and I would appoint people on the board to do that ballot. Anyway, that's, I throw that out there because for many reasons, as I stated before, but I think it belongs to the members. It is the impact of this lake, and I can't even begin to tell you how the lake impacts your property value every day. And so I think it's important for you to make that decision, not for me sitting here, whether I believe in it or don't believe in it. Many of you have asked me, and it's my opinion, not yours, at this point in time. And so, Cecil?
With a set timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, in my opinion, and so it's my idea. So I'll tell you, my opinion would be that we would be voting at the very latest by September the 1st. And that we would, as a board, my guess, we would need to have a special meeting in August to approve that ballot and look at that ballot. So somebody had a question right there.
Nancy, one concern I'd like for James to weigh in on this too, because we're modifying a rule and our general procedure would be that it would come here, we would send it out for comments, but not determination. And so I'm not sure how that's going to jive with what our actual requirements are and our responsibilities as board members. So I'd like to have his opinion about that. And I understand asking a lawyer something when he hadn't already looked it up. But if you could help, we would appreciate it.
Nominal fee.
James, you want the microphone from Ronnie, please?
I will take a look at this further, but we used a similar process with the par 3. So I will make sure that this still fits because it's been a while since I looked at it for the par 3, but essentially we used this process with the par 3. So it's basically, the way I'm understanding it is it would kind of be following the same process and procedures that we used with approving the par 3 so that when the members approved it, they knew what they were receiving.
Anyone else have a question?
Well, I'm going to step up to the plate and recommend that we adopt what you said with what he said.
You wrote it down.
Well, no, I didn't. I got watercraft rules. With what he said, as far as precise wording, that are you smarter than a fifth grader could understand, so that there's no doubt about what we're intending or what we want or what it means. Hello?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Rick? Okay. All right. And so the motion before you, hold on one second. The motion before you would be that we would move these watercraft rules that are here, 3.3.6.2, all the way down to 3.3.6.21. And we would put those on a ballot. It would go out to the members, and then the members would vote. They would have at least 30 days to vote.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll wait till the discussion period.
Okay. All right. That's the motion, and the ballot to be put together and approved by the board. So, and the rationale that goes with that, as well as our attorney. All right. Okay. Discussion. Cecil.
Well, it's just, I believe that ultimately this is probably the most fair way to get what the community believes is the right direction to go on this matter. I mean, it's been a tug of war, honestly, and I get that, and I understand that, and there are varying opinions and discussions have been made. We've had 2 open forums. We've had an ad hoc committee. We've done lots of people done lots of research, and this is something that is not just unique to Lake Kiowa. It's across the United States in thousands of bodies of water. So it's time for us to get it right, whatever right is. And again, Nancy's comment, we are dealing with other things that tie to litigation potentially. And we want to make sure that every one of the members in this community knows and understands what the impacts of that are and where we should go in the future.
Who else had?
So that's my question. We're privy to stuff in executive session because it's litigation and it's one of our members or several of our members. How could we possibly explain that to the community when they vote?
I'm not even relating to any of that. I don't think that I said that in relation to what my justification was. I don't think that's part of your rationale. I think part of your rationale is that what you're asking?
Yes. The 9 of us up here make decisions because there's certain things that members are protected by the whole community can't know. So we have different information than the rest of these folks in this room, plus the other 1,400 lots are going to have. How can they possibly make the decision without having that information, that additional information that we're not allowed to share to them because it's an executive session because we have to protect our members?
I'm trying to think how best to answer that question. I think that anything that we put on the ballot and a rationale that's there, that's going to relate to why I mean, if you go by what the ad hoc committee had, is what Rick was saying, then you use part of their rationale that's there. You're not necessarily giving people a reason not to vote that way, should I say. You're giving them the rationale for why that rule is out there.
Well, common sense says to me that if I vote yes for any of these rules, if we get a lawsuit, common sense tells me I may have to pony up. Which may happen.
I think that whether we do or we do not, I think it's really more about anything that happens. Once those happen, it is the member's responsibility because we own a portion of it. And so it impacts everyone, whatever happens. And so I think it's important for the members to choose, because if one side is correct that it's damaging the lake, then we own that, because then that impacts our property values. And if the other side is correct that there's no damage, then you're impacting the people that want to enjoy the lake on wake surfing, right? And so it doesn't matter which side of the issue you're on, you're impacting property values, you're impacting the lake and what people can do.
So I have a bunch of like process questions, and I know I'm a process guy, but and I don't know if they have to be worked out now, but is it similar? Is the idea similar, like a bylaw vote? Each lot gets one vote,
Correct.
or is it like, yeah, all right. But obviously the covenants we do differently. So I just would want to make sure we go through that process, and so not just spend time putting the ballot together, but making sure that we're 100% locked in on what's the process, because I don't want to, I don't want any doubt by any member, during or after the fact of what's happening. The other comment, 2 comments, would we restrict that ballot to just the things that were voted on by the ad hoc committee and discussed by the rules committee, or would we add any other lake type, watercraft type rules to that has been discussed but didn't necessarily come up through that path? For example, we heard earlier, do we move the buoys out further? There's probably a few things like that we may want to consider as well.
Oh, we wouldn't.
I think you go with what was presented and what came up through the rules committee and the ad hoc committee. And so, although that was discussed, I believe in the ad hoc committee, it didn't come forth as a recommendation in any way.
I'm just trying to get one fell swoop. And not,
I hear you.
Because we've been kicking this can for a long time, and
yes, sir.
I would love to just move forward. But
and again,
I don't want to hurt the process as part of that.
If you would prefer to just take them one at a time right now, we can do that. I'm just giving you, that's my recommendation. And you now have a motion on the floor, so you can choose to accept it or defeat it. Either way. I'm sorry I can't recognize you right now. So, okay. Okay. That's all right. You don't have to put it down. I got you. Rick?
So I know this is a very polarizing issue, and what I keep going back and forth on is I agree that there are other small lakes out there that have basically said no wake boats, no surf boats. The difference that Lake Kiowa did not do is they continue to allow wake boats and surf boats into the lake instead of just banning them right off the bat when this issue became an issue. And so now we're having to deal with that, and we're trying to figure out what the best solution would be. So I like the idea of putting it towards the members, but I also feel like we've opened ourselves up to lawsuits because we did not ban the boats like we should have done when it became an issue. We allowed them to come in. There's boats out here right now that are doing it. Security's not, enforcing it, which they can't, which I understand because there's only so many of you and so many people out on the lake at all times. So it's just something we need to think about because one way or another, there could potentially be a lawsuit and we need to be aware of it.
I agree with all that, but I think we've kicked the can down the road. I mean, we beat the horse to death right now. I mean, he's in the pasture dead. I mean, we've had so many committee meetings. We did the ad hoc thing. We've done this. We've done that. I mean,
it is your choice.
And I agree. It's time to let the community tell us with all the facts what they want.
So it's really up to you at this point in time. We can take these individually or we can put it out to a ballot to the members. And so you have a motion on the floor right now. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of putting those rules that we have before us from 3.3.6.2 to 3.6.21, all those in favor, raise your hand. Putting it to a ballot. All right. All those opposed? Okay. All right. The motion passes 7-1, and we will do a ballot and take it to our members and allow them to tell us how they would like us to proceed. And we will make sure that all the T's and I's and everything are dotted and crossed along the way to make sure. If by chance we do go through there and someone in the prevailing side can bring a motion up at the next board meeting and we can choose not to do that. Okay? Just giving you another out. All right? Robert's Rules of Order says you can do that. Okay?
Nancy,
and
does that make my submission moot at this point?
Yes, sir, it does.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're relieved from duty there, George. Thank you very much. I know lots of people have comments on that, and I'll give you in just a couple of moments to make some comments to do that. Can we finish just a couple of more items of business and you can come back to that? All right. Okay. Dan, board discussion, project initiative and prioritization.
Yes. Thank you, Nancy.
You want to do that for next time?
Let's save it for next time. Yes, that's a great idea. I'll work with folks that are still working through it to get 100%. I know Chris was away and some other people had challenges, so I will continue to work with folks and I'll bring it, hopefully get it done within the next couple of weeks and get it out to all you so we can have a real discussion.
Okay.
But the intent is for the people that aren't aware, right, to really start a more formal board prioritization process and look at, of the 50 things we could be working on, literally 50 plus, which ones do we think are most important for the community, both from a capital perspective and a true initiative perspective.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. All right. Rich, community manager update.
I will yield to Jim Fox for some project updates.
I will be brief. No slides tonight. Pickleball courts, we are expecting to get some stressing data from them on the post-tension cable stressing. We need that information before we can actually begin the vertical work, such as the fence, to go out there. That's what's been, was in the update. So he's kind of got laid out all of the steps for the next one. I'm hearing that it could be 2 to 3 months before we could get that finished. I have heard that before. So, but anyway, I do think it can be done in that time frame. So we'll see what transpires with that. Little Wolf Park Trail. We basically have the trail all the way roughed out. And if you go out there and look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's some undulation. It's loose and needs to be graded out. There needs to be a final pass made with that. Currently working on the most cost-effective way to cross the ditch over there by the driving range. We've got to be able to connect that. We're looking at a box culvert, got some quotes for that, and got some more information today on what it might take to install that. So we'll be bringing that forward, hopefully at the August meeting, as to what the recommendation is to cross the ditch over there. Front entrance, basically, we're in contract negotiations still. We received back another contract with some changes from what we were posed in our last revision. So we've got to work through those, and we'll see where that one goes. So any questions on any three of those projects?
Yes. Tim, on pickleball, I thought we tested the post tension after we got it finished, and then they came in and our experts looked at it, their experts looked at it, and then we made adjustments to it, which started over the process for about a month. And then the last I heard is that all of the engineers, all the experts had approved the slab as it is, and they had a prospectus of what they were going to do going forward starting on June the 6th.
The concrete, in answer to your question, the concrete has been through those processes with the 28-day crack and the 7-day and everything. So the slab and the concrete is done. The post-tension cables have been tensioned twice. They've been done in accordance with the protocol for that by a company that specializes in that. They fabricated the cables and everything. But the data from that saying, has that been tightened enough or too much, is information we have not yet received. Our Teradyne, who had asked for us to provide that data to them so they could better assess whether that is proper or not. We have not received that information. So Teradyne, I cannot give them the information until I get it from them.
What's the holdup from them?
I wish I could tell you. We are not getting a response from him on that.
Has anyone yelled at him?
Yes.
Yell louder.
And why can't they go forward with some of the other activities without doing that? I mean, I've seen a lot of dirt sitting out there and washing away and mud and grass. Why don't they have someone working on something?
I cannot answer why their means and methods and what they plan on doing with that. So,
is there any venue we have, whether it's legal or persuasion or meetings set up, that anything else we can do to move this project along?
I think there'll be some discussion about some way to advance the project with the draws that are being requested and or not provided on that, and trying to get him to move. So we're kind of at a stalemate on that. You're welcome. Any other questions? Any of the three projects?
All right, Rich? No, sir, not right now.
I'll touch base on just a couple of things that were mentioned at the last meeting. We went forward with the lake water testing. That was approved. So that's been, that contract's been signed. Have an estimated date of August 6th to get them on site. It's tentative depending on some of their schedule, but they have us down for August 6th right now. You have a list in front of you of what the scope is, all the items, and I think we've addressed everything that was requested. Cecil can speak any more on that.
Well, and if you look at the past history here, we've used, from the LKACC perspective, we've used a fisheries biologist to do a few things like testing alkalinity and salinity and clarity. But this is a full-fledged water program that will be done annually. One of the things, and Rich can talk to this, I've seen parts of things done over the last 10 years, but nothing full-fledged like this. And we continue to get more and more questions on where are we at? Is our water safe? Are the fish we're catching, can we eat them? You know, and when you answer, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming we don't have any problems, but until we would do something like this and put a full-fledged program in place, and then we know by the data. And you know, Nancy, you asked a question in a prior meeting. What if we find something? Well, we've got the company that's the expert that would give us a spelled out plan. You know, but we'd rather know in advance when we have something this big rather than a real full-fledged problem. You heard Jeff talk about blue-green algae. We've seen 3 to 4 instances in the last 5 years, nothing major, but we do not want anything major. That's just not quite as bad as zebra mussels, but it's not far behind. So we'd rather know if our levels are going up. We want to establish a baseline on parameters for our water, and then know and understand if there are any changes and why the changes occur.
Thanks, Cecil.
Just to touch on that previous testing, I believe regarding the fish habitat nutrients were tested before. I know since I've been here, the POA has tested for E. coli, but there's been no comprehensive testing. So we're trying to establish that comprehensive test and hopefully just do it annually and move forward with that depending on what the results are. Any other questions? Golf, we're working on, Jim Fox is working on, we've pretty much finalized an RFP for the golf sand bunkers. It's basically timing right now. We want to probably do the actual work in October. We probably can send out the RFP, but we have to establish probably like a 60-day, the bid would have to be good for 60 days. So I was actually, because of other things, maybe we should get that out as soon as possible and then go from there. So we'll try to get that RFP out for the sand traps as soon as possible. We also met with Parks and Recs today, discussed the playgrounds. That, again, trying to finalize the scope, refine the RFP to the point to when the budget meetings are done and we allocate the funds and finalize everything, we can submit that RFP. So hopefully that'll be submitted in late fall. So when we have the funds available, January 1st, we'll be able to move forward. Next up is some funding requests. They're both for lodge equipment, both reviewed by the Ways and Means and recommended. First is the charbroiler replacement for $7,500. It's actually getting pushed up 1 year schedule. It's got some damage and some other issues. And then there's just a regular broiler, which has been past due for replacement. And that is a request for $5,000 not to exceed. Jeremy's here if you have any questions further in your packet. I'm sure I'd be happy to answer.
So is there a motion? Ronnie and Dan, you want to take both of them at the same time? Okay. All right. And so you're approving that we spend an amount not to exceed $7,500 on the charbroiler and not to exceed $5,000 on the salamander broiler. Is that correct? All right. Dan seconded it. Is there any discussion?
Just to clarify, both of those items would come out of the ARF, right? Asset replacement.
Then we'll make that part of the motion that it comes out of ARF. All right.
Yeah, and we did pick the right company to do business with because I researched them and there's the Cisco one that's so common. I mean, they have like a 4.3 better, I mean, like a 2.3 better business. I mean, the hell, their own employees don't even like them. So I was glad that we went with the other company. You did good.
All right. Any other discussion or feedback or comments? All right. All those in favor of spending the amount not to exceed $12,500, raise your hand. All right. All those opposed? No. All right. 8-0, Kendall. Go ahead, Rich.
All right. Next up, Jeremy, you submitted in your packet an update. Would you like to go over that?
All right. So Dan spoke about it a little bit earlier. June was a tough month with us. We had just a bunch of rain days. So any kind of weather does impact the lodge. And we always try to prepare for busy. So whenever we have the extra labor, the extra food, and all that stuff, it just kind of, it hits the bottom line in the way that you're not wanting it to. We're looking really good for July so far. We're tracking ahead of budget, so hopefully we finish strong, and that all comes from y'all coming to the lodge. Thank y'all.
Good.
All right, next up is security. In your packets, the bubble diagram basically is laying out what the citations were, warnings, hours on the lake, number of guests that entered for the June report. And would you like to go anything further and do an update?
Really don't have a June, oh goodness, sorry. Really don't have an update on the June or any more to add to June. I just thought I'd bring forward the July stats. You should have it in your packet, I believe. Sorry, I can't read my own stuff. For July, we had an average of 22 fewer people that came in. But if you guys didn't realize, for July 3rd, we entered 1,087 people, which is 22% higher, or yeah, 2% less than last year. We had our highest daytime entry, which was 648 people. That's 648 people that came through the gate between 6:45 a.m. and 2:45 p.m. So a total, and I'm sorry, I should have these. So July 3rd, 1,117 people came in. July 4th, that's 1,309. And then Sunday, only 367 people came in. And that doesn't count the people that we waved through. So obviously July 4th was our busiest day. And again, that doesn't count the flagging of people.
So Melanie, those are people that don't have the electronic tags, right? These are people.
Those are people that don't. These were guest and family cards that we actually logged
And when
in.
you say wave through, if someone showed their member
So someone
card.
showed, then we waved them in. So those are actually the count of the people. I think the July 4th events went really well. For those that didn't know, this year, we set up a first aid station inside. This year we shut down Nowetta again for safety and security because it's very difficult for a fire truck to get through. And I was stopped by 2 members today that said that they actually had fire ash in their front yard, which reiterates why we shut it down. But we didn't have any problems this year. I did it a little bit different and sent out everybody letters beforehand. And this year we also did golf cart parking instead of vehicle parking to protect the people's land that's there, their lots, and didn't have any problems there. We did have a lot of problems with people wanting to get out. The parade last hour, it seemed to be more of a problem this year. I've looked at the parade route and we'll look at an exit route. I've got an exit route planned for next year. Other than that, that's it. I think July 4th went off really well with the amount of people that we have come through. And that's all I have.
And then you probably saw a couple of the other flyers we sent out. One on just all the activities were all listed. I mean, it's 1,000,001 items, and I thought it was a good job to fit it all on one page. It was amazing, actually. And then we also did a rules kind of reminder sheet, which I think was actually well received as well. We had those located at the pro shop, the lodge, a bunch of places, and I know a lot of people picked those up and used them. And then also in your packet, or also I'll mention one thing too, is one, things you always like lessons learned or things changed next year. We probably do need some more barricades, period. A couple places we were putting cones out. So there's always like trying to control traffic. And also at the main boat ramp, just before the fireworks were going, we had maybe a handful of people that were trying to launch their boats while we were about to let the fireworks off. So that was a little bit of a scramble. So again, next year is another thing we're probably going to close at a certain time, but keep people from launching from the main boat ramp. You can go in from the other ramps, but not from the main boat ramp. Also, like a little short shout out to George and everybody in the rules committee. I put in the agenda and the docket that they did in June. Just the time they put in, there was a large amount of hearings, and there was about a 4-hour meeting George. So it was a 4-hour meeting. So I know we're here a long time, but committees put in a lot of time as well. And then just going through for a lot of the other department updates, we spoke about the fractional HR. Hopefully we'll be moving with that shortly and maybe start implementing it September 1st. And then, other things we got going on is Dan spoke to it about, and we have the second quarter KPIs, which got completed a little bit late to put in the communique for this month coming up, but I'll put it on a constant contact and they'll be in a September communique. Most of the information is just financial. All the financials are updated as far as our delinquency rate, which we're doing well on. Our variance to budget's a little bit over where we'd like it, but a lot of that Dan touched on with the tax payment we had to do. We're doing pretty good with all our interest earned, our initiation fee. The lodge is at a 92%. And then what we added for this time, which wasn't on the others, was all the reserve funding, the funding levels Dan spoke about too. So we're going to add those to the KPIs so we can track those. All the surveys are repetitive from the last quarter. They were the August and February surveys. We'll be issuing another August survey starting August 1st. So they'll be in constant contact and you'll be able to participate in the next survey. It's a repeat from last August. Same questions, 19 of them. We added one more open-ended question at the end. They're in your packets for review if you'd like to have any comments on that. And the last thing we put in there is kind of just the attendance, which thank you for all being here. It'll raise the number up a lot. We basically average about 15 people. So we'll do really good for the next KPI. And then the board members is pretty steady. Every once in a while we miss one member, but the majority of the time we're 9. I think we average just every 3 meetings, one person misses, which is great. And then, like I mentioned, the satisfaction survey coming up, please participate. We've had a huge fluctuation of participation of surveys. We've had over 400 down to less than 200. We had over 200 people survey for the message boards up front. So, I mean, I'd like to get a consistent participation in the surveys. And then for the members as well, the initiation fee, we've had 31 this year. I think we're at 42 members since the last time we had a new member event. I've scheduled the next one for October 10th. Again, we'll send it out to all the new members and give them an invite, but I'll send a message out to anybody that missed the last one or is a fairly new member. Please feel free to attend. And then the last one is a golf update. You have it in your packet. We're working on the bunkers. We had trash cans that were ordered. They've been a little delayed. They're due at any time. We're behind on putting the driving range targets out. Again, a couple items are back ordered. As soon as they come in, we'll get those out. Any other questions from your packet?
No, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks to you and the staff for all that you do. We appreciate it, as well as committees, as you mentioned before. Only additional business that I have on here is that I would like to appoint people to do that ballot. And so Dylan, Rick, Ronnie, and Cecil, would you put together our ballot for the members for Watercraft? All right. Okay. And you have 2 weeks, just letting you know. For your draft. Okay. So, all right. Thank you all very much for doing that. Okay, I'm going to have comments for the members. It's now open. And so, wait, before everybody jumps up. So I have on my sheet, Jim Adams, Jim Marfis, the gentleman in the white t-shirt back there, and Scott. And so you go in that order. So Jim, you're first.
Jim Adams, lot 666. Of course, I have no concern with you guys voting, but the way you talked about it and the way you actually made the motion, I have some concerns. It is a bylaw vote. There is no other way you can do. The members don't get to vote on rules. Go read the rules. Go read the bylaws. The members don't vote on rules. So it has to be a bylaw. And therefore, being a bylaw, it's going to matter how it's worded, how it's placed in the bylaws, that kind of thing. So, but moving forward with a vote like that, that sounds fine. And if it's done according to the bylaws, which has a different level of acceptance, a higher level of vote. It's not a majority vote, which was mentioned in your discussion. And so it has different requirements. You can check me on it. I've been studying this subject very well. The other thing I would like to just ask that you mentioned you throwing this committee together. I would like to ask maybe that you allow some friendly amendments to whatever that is. I mean, you saw Gerald has a letter from 300 and something people. And I think we might have a couple of ideas how to improve the bylaws relative to the lake, and not just those rules. I mean, those rules will come up just like you guys want them to, but there's some other areas that we'd like to see improve. So there's some friendly amendments. You don't have to allow that, but we can do it. And it just will confuse the process, I think, if we got two processes going. So I might suggest you consider that. And then I just want to address what Mr. Jameson said. He said, just because we haven't been enforcing the rules, that we don't have to enforce the rules, or we're not clear what's going on. I would like to point out in the bylaws 7.04, section 8, and in the covenants, section 11. Basically, both of those two rules, which are our most precious documents, say that you can't acquiesce, you can't give away a rule, and just because you accidentally pass a rule one time doesn't mean you can do it another time. I mean, that'd be like saying you're speeding on the street and you didn't get caught. Well, that means that all speeding tickets are not valid anymore? No. So our covenants and bylaws are very clear. And then if you even read in the rules, section 3.2.8 also says any failure to enforce at a time does not mean something cannot be enforced going forward. So we had rules. Sometimes they didn't get enforced. That doesn't mean somebody should be breaking them. So I'd like just to make sure at least one of our board members know to check the rules, the covenants, and the bylaws. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Marfus, I think you had your hand up.
Jim Marfus, lot 177. Just a note here. When we had a vote, when I was POA president, we had a vote on the pavilion. Okay, we had a lot more people here than you have tonight. A lot of people were opposed to it, but they didn't have all the information. So we need to make sure they have all the information. So there were a lot of people that were against the pavilion because they had improper information that one board member said it was going to cost $800,000, and he had no basis for that number. He just pulled it out of his butt. So when it came up to 1.2, there was a lot of people that were really excited. And why did that happen? But Randy cut it down, and we got it under that number. But we need to there are a lot of people excited about spending POA money at 1.2 million. So my point is, sometimes you got to just, number one, if you're going to do the ballot, you need to make sure everybody has all the information. And number two, we elected y'all to make the hard decisions. So that's what y'all elected to do. But my recommendation would have been to vote on the thing and get it over with.
Yes, sir.
Just get closer. Yeah. Jason Sophie lot, I don't know. It's my member number is 1110. The big thing for me, and I normally don't like to get up here because normally I'm sitting around the dais at other committees and councils and stuff I've served on. But the big thing is, for me, there's two or three things that, just in listening tonight, that I wanted to comment on. Number one, I can't remember if it was Nancy or someone, but spoke to the fact that us as members, it wasn't that important for us to know what the lawsuit situation is. I think it's very important. I think that's part of what we're voting on. I think that makes it one of the issues that we're saying, hey, are we gonna what are we subject to? Do we have insurance? What does the insurance cover? I think if we put something in the communique or put it out, however, I think it would be I think it would be very helpful for our decision-making process. Once again, which whichever way this thing goes, the lawsuit could come from either side, and I think we need to be aware of what our exposure is as members. A couple of the other things, primarily one thing that I don't play pickleball. I don't know much about pickleball, but I do know concrete and stuff. I'm a little surprised it's taken that long because if we do a cable slab, we can start building a house within 4 weeks. So I'm a little confused about that. I'd like to see that move along, even though I don't play. But those are my major things. My take on this. I just think it's very important that we have all the information that we can have to move forward. And I think knowing what our insurance is and what our exposure is makes I think it's going to be a very important thing for the community. So I do think that's important. I'd like to have that information for everybody.
Scott.
Good evening, Scott Wilson, Lot 32. My statement is about the pickleball courts, of course. Jim Fox, I'm not pointing any fingers, but Jim Fox got up a little earlier and said that he doesn't know what's going on right now. Well, I remember not too long ago, Nancy, when you had your meet and greets and question and answers, and we came up with an idea that night to have weekly meetings because we had asked, are there weekly meetings? Are you meeting with the contractor? And no was the answer. And at that point, you said, we're going to have weekly meetings. If we're having weekly meetings, how come we don't know what's going on? That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Gerald Smith, 1419. But first of all, Rich, I'd like you to make a run at Dan Bessie to find some money to fix the air conditioner in here. But in addressing the ballot, Nancy, I like the way you put together a subcommittee. I would recommend you also find one or two people to help you with the communication part of this. There needs to be town hall meetings. There needs to be articles in the communique. There needs to be ways to make people aware of what down the road they're going to be voting on. And my concern is we're talking about rush, rush, rush. What's the rush? Why does it need to be September? Why can't it be middle of September or October? There's no deadline that I can see that would require us to say it's got to be done by September 1st. My point is, let's slow down and let's do it right. Okay?
Corky is back here also. Corky had his hand up first and then.
Thank you. Corky Cahoon, Lot 1676. And if we do a bylaw style vote, and as far as if we can do it like Nancy suggests, we'd probably need our attorney to give us a little information. But the procedure is what I think some of the new board members might be interested in and the audience. The procedure for that type of vote, each member, and when I say member, the owners of a lot, might be husband and wife or whatever it is, they get one vote, not one for each. And the POA comes up with a list of all the authorized members. Now, in a covenant vote, you know that if you have 10 lots, you get 10 votes. But in this style vote, if you are a member, even if you own 10 lots, you get one vote. From there, after we get this list of all of the lots as on record for a certain date, let's say it's 15 August or whatever, that information, once you find what you want to say in the ballot, etc., we have a contractor, a third party, so it's not someone on the inside that's going to count the votes or administer this. It goes to a contractor who sends it to all the email addresses that was given to him by the POA. From there, it goes to our auditor, which is also not our employee, who audits that vote, and then it comes back to the board. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood the procedure for such a vote. So if you're a renter, you don't get a vote. If you're a child or other kind of resident, you don't get a vote. Each member gets a vote. So just cover those procedures.
Thank you, Corky.
Thank you.
Ellison.
Hi, Allison Tarpley, lots 1734, 1630. A couple of things. I agree. I think this needs to be, well, I'd first like to step back and say we all need to think about the community that we want moving forward. And right now we have a very divided community. And I know it doesn't seem that way as much here. And I know that's funny to some people, but it is very divided. And not everybody that works in Dallas or McKinney or Fort Worth could be here tonight. Okay. So I think we do have a very divided community. I think it's been very evident by the things that have come to the board. So I think it is very important that we take our time, that we do this right, that everybody on both sides has all the information. For instance, the ad hoc committee, and I know Nancy did a good job. There were people on both sides of the issue on the committee. And I think that's important. I think that that's important as you put the ballot together, to have people on both sides of the issue, to have research on both sides of the issue, to have, if there's litigation stuff and I don't know all then to have it on both sides, right? We've already had litigation in this community in this issue. And I think it's important. It has yet to be said to the community. And I know the Rules Committee knows, and I know the board knows, but it's yet to be put out to the community that the ad hoc committee did come down, and it's not like they're wanting to open up to wake surfing where you're all of a sudden going to see 20 boats wake surfing on this community. One boat at a time was the recommendation. One. We've had for 25 years in this community, one boat wake surfing already for 25 years. What damage has that done to the dam or to our docks or to our seashore? I live on the water. We have a ton of damage. We just replaced ours. But there's no way for me to know. I can have my opinion. I can look at research on both sides. There's no way for me to know if that was done by the fishermen boats that are fishing up underneath my dock and leaving hooks and other things. If it's the tubers with 2 or 3 tubes and very heavy 6 people on them with 10 people on the boat, creating a huge wake that goes in circles and circles and circles. If it's all different things, if it's the wake surfing pushing the water down, but if we limit that to the deep end of the water, one boat at a time, which is what we've had for 25 years, that's what we felt was a compromise. And I'm just asking everybody to, somebody mentioned earlier that they would love a compromise. And in our opinion, that's a compromise. It's allowing the security to be able to monitor it better. It's one place, one time. There's no holidays, certain times of day, weekends, busy weekend. There was a whole lot more that went into that recommendation than just allowing wake surfing. No one wants that. I love this community just like you do. I know everybody's on different sides of it, but I'm just asking people to just listen for a minute, look at both sides. Let's get all the information out there, but don't just say, oh, no, wake surfing, that's horrible. I don't know a kayaker who can kayak next to a jet ski, next to a tuber, next to, kids swimming off my dock, I'm not going to have them do that when there's boats coming right by, jet skis coming by, or anything. Like, we have to think logically. And I'm just asking for us to give us enough time, the entire community. So I agree that the September 1st is probably really quick, but I think it's important to have all the information for everybody to make an educated decision.
Anyone else? Stand up.
Sorry. Paul Sellers, 1578. Got a question on the pickleball courts. Why do we continue to deal with a contractor that doesn't answer our questions? We pay them. Why do we not get answers? This has been way too long in this process. The other thing is, have they ever given y'all the complete invoices to reach the money we've already paid them? I heard Jim mention something about a draw. Then why would you even entertain the idea to pay them more when they haven't even told you they've spent what we gave them and they won't answer your questions? Why don't we deal with a different contractor and end this?
Dale Peterson again. I just I don't know the history of wakeboard on this lake, being fairly newcomer. I just don't understand why we don't enforce the laws that are on the book today until we come up with a new recommendation. So I knew what the rules were when I joined, and I follow them. So it's as simple as you follow the rules.
Anyone else? If you want to say something, please get up there.
Sorry, Lori Brindle. Yeah, his comment there, because I looked at the rules today, and the rule today is today they are not allowed. What I don't know is when we set that rule. Does anybody know when I mean, how many of those boats have come in since we set that rule? Because if I was buying a house and had one of those boats, I'd want to be clear on it before I bought a boat or brought one in. I'm sorry, what?
No.
I'm just asking the question because if you brought a boat in afterwards and you saw the rule, I'm not sure what legally someone could say.
Somebody else? Okay. Come up here.
I'm Carla Hecker, 1646. I'm not here to talk about boats. I was brought aware that there's an appeal happening tonight regarding a dog in our community. There was a recent dog attack, and this happened to my mother and her dog a couple of years ago. And we were told at that time that the dog would be removed from the community, and that has not happened. We were also told by the homeowner that she was going to be putting her home on the market. That has not happened. It's been almost 3 years. My mom is 86 years old now. I'm lucky to still have her here. She was pulled to the ground. Her dog was badly injured, and she suffered a broken shoulder. And luckily, she was in good enough shape. She was able to recover. But I want you to think very seriously how you rule on this. I think this dog is dangerous. It's been trained to attack things. It's been through like a police sort of training. And this same dog owner had a previous dog that had 2 incidences before that. It's an owner problem. It's a dog problem. And please go with your heart, and we need to make sure this dog doesn't hurt anyone else going forward.
Yes, sir.
Tommy Jackson, Lot 101 again. I want to say something positive because we've heard a lot of negative. I want to personally thank Melanie in public for closing Nowetta Place out during the 4th of July. I built the house at the end of Nowetta that's at 124. That's the last house on the left on the cul-de-sac. And I've sat on that dock to watch the fireworks, which is wonderful, for 14 years. And we have had ashes, we have had sparks, we have had everything come upon us while we have sat on that dock. So I want to thank her personally, publicly, for closing that street, because prior to her arrival, we had so many cars and golf carts down that street that it was completely blocked almost all the way back to Kiowa Drive. And there would have been no way that a fire truck could have gotten down that street had a fire occurred. This year, I sold that house 4 years ago, but I actually bought the house right across the street because I like Nowetta. I fixed it and moved into it. And this year, after the fireworks, we had big pieces of ash on our driveway at 109, and we're 2 or 3 houses away from the lake. Now, again, that's fine, not a problem. But the point is that because of her diligence and because of her taking the heat, we could get a fire truck down there if we needed to. And I publicly want to thank her for doing that. It was needed years and years ago when I owned 124 Nowetta. I had a lot of golf carts and automobiles that felt free to park in my front yard without any permission whatsoever. And rather than stir something up, I just let it go. But there would have been no way to get a fire truck down there. So I just want to thank her for that.
Anyone else?
Jeannie Smith, 1419. Even though I'm married to somebody on that committee, I've never seen the actual results of that committee. I've heard what the committee voted.
Confidential.
Well, he holds his confidentiality. But you threw it up there real quick. Can you send that slide out, or can you send out what the
It doesn't do you any good to see that.
because I'd like to see, well, I'd like to see the whole recommendations, and I'd also like to see the recommendations on the Rules Committee, who worked hard on it, just to see what's out there, because I just think it's kind of that transparency that somebody mentioned earlier, that be easy to do it. It's out there somewhere. So, and George's committee worked hard on their recommendations. I'd like to see those too. And I like the idea of a vote. I just want to make sure, and that's the lawyer, that we're doing it legally so that somebody doesn't come back and sue us. Because I know we can make bylaw changes, but I don't know where it says that we can make changes to rules with a vote. But that's up to you. And then what is the percentage on that vote? Back to details. Is it 50%, 50% plus one, or is it 2/3 of the vote like it is for a bylaw? 2/3 of the number of the people that vote to change a bylaw. So those are all things to be worked out and decided.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to say, whoop, there you go. Michelle?
Michelle Taylor, lot 1326. I would like to ask that all of the recommendations from both the ad hoc committee and the rules committee be sent out to the community. And we saw a summary of it, I think, up there. But if we could have the whole thing, that would be great.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much for all of your feedback and all your comments that were there before the meeting, and certainly as we're ending right here. We are going to take a break, and then the board will be going into an executive session after that. So thank you very much for being here. If you have any feedback for me, feel free to call me, email me.